approved by the previous board. And how much money was that accumulated? In other words, I think we had 3 tax increases,
Okay.
right? I don't know, because I wasn't on the board.
I know over the last 2 years, yes, we've had a tax increase.
Okay.
I most likely, I think it has been the last 3 out of the 4. I'd like to confirm that. However, what I will say is every little bit you increase taxes now is twice as much 3 years down the, or it's compounded down the road. If those taxes were not raised now, at those point in time, we're not talking about $2.6 million, we're talking about $8 million that we're gonna need out of the budget. So those tax increases, I don't want you to feel, I think we all agree that we want to minimize the tax increase at all possible. I don't think anybody's gonna argue that point. However, how are we going to balance a budget? And without a tax increase, what's the direction for us to move?
That is your responsibility in your position description to bring to the board various options. And I'm requesting that there be no increase in taxes for the taxpayers and citizens of Mill Creek Township for 16-17.
Okay, what program, can I ask what program would you like to start cutting first? I would like maybe your top 3 programs.
That is not my responsibility. That is the district's responsibility to present to the board. We will then.
But you'll be the first to credit.
Yeah, well, I'm asking for your, well, hold on, Don, I'm asking for your opinion then. Where do we start cutting? That's why we're asking for suggestions and discussion. As a board member, give me some direction of where I'm gonna go start cutting. And then I'll come back to you with those numbers in specific figures. This program's this much as that, we're furloughing teachers, whatever. But give me a little direction as opposed to just saying you don't want a tax increase.
What I'm stating, Mr. Hall, is in accounts payable, the previous board approved Richard Lansbury. He's a retired superintendent from Harbor Creek.
Mr. Aliota, could you, I'm sorry, I'm asking you to answer my question.
May I say?
You want to start with Rick Lansbury? Is that what you're saying?
No.
You want to cut Rick Lansbury? Okay, give me 2 more. Rick Lansbury's $55,000. That gets us down to 2.53 or whatever. Where else are we going?
I would like to see, right, as an individual board member, I'd like to see a list of the cost savings, cost containment for the past 2 years. So, okay.
Is that a board study request?
No. Well,
Yeah, I'm going to need to hear from 5 more or 4 more of you, if that's where you want me to go. I don't understand how that aligns to what programs you feel we need to cut to make the budget work without raising taxes.
It's not a board decision.
I'm asking you, you shared an opinion, you
Yeah,
just stated.
it's not my responsibility if the Director of Finance and Senior Management has not prepared a cost containment, cost assessment for me to review.
Of what programs? Programs we've already cut? You're asking me to provide.
Where is the monetary amount that's attached to those programs?
In the fund balance. I'm asking for how we're going to make this work.
And how much money was received by the tax increases for the past 3 years?
I don't understand how that applies to how we're going to balance next year's budget.
It's a moot point then, Mr. Hall.
and the gentleman in the audience, I'm going to acknowledge.
My perspective is boards cannot get down in the weeds, but board has to establish priorities. And so from my perspective, the board has to say, to give instruction to the administration, either focus in on the educational component, maybe class sizes or something like that, cut programs, cut activities, cut busing. But the reality is, vision, there has to be a vision that has to be cast and of some priorities. So details, no, but if you cannot cast some vision, you're asking somebody to basically cut their own throat.
Thank you.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Getting back to your talking about suggestions and discussion, I have a question as far as, because I believe in the long term, we're going to have to do a little bit of both. Probably find something to cut and raise some taxes. I don't think that we can do this, in my opinion right now, solely on cutting without severely impacting our children. And Ms. Greenway, this is a question for you. I understand that when Common Core was implemented, there were a lot of costs that went along with that, with the testing. Because of the ESSA, am I correct?
Correct.
And we no longer have those national tests, will we be able to save any money in our budget because of decreased testing? Is that any money we'll be able to find?
I think it's too soon to say that. We will always have state assessments. So with the new
Right.
ESSA that has come out, PDE will take some time to figure out how it will look for our state. But the ESSA still holds within it that there will be state assessment testing grade 3 to 8, as well as at the high school level. So I don't see any decrease for testing.
I have a comment. Did we include some raises for the meet and discuss folks? Did you give them, like in our next year's budget, like a 2% or 2.5%? Some kind of
2%.
I'm sorry?
2%.
Okay. Now, what I would suggest is that we cut that to 1% or possibly 0%. The way I think we should look at negotiations with labor is when we have X amount of payroll. Okay, now we have, I don't know, 450, 500 teachers, and we probably have another 500 support staff. You tell them that here's what we have for payroll. We have $20 million. You can have a 10% increase if that's what you want, but when the $20 million is spent, you're done. You figure out what bodies you want gone, and you can have 10%. You just say that we cannot raise the cost of our payroll. We are capped, we're done. So you guys figure it out. If you're willing to take a 1% raise, God bless you. If you're willing to take a 5% decrease, fantastic. But you can't just automatically assume that you're going to get something. And the way we also need to get is some money on insurance by some pays. And the teachers started that, but we need to go further because that's over a $10 million expense to this district. And we need to make some inroads on that. So I think if you looked at it that way, you know, we say that 80% of our budget is personnel costs. Well, we can't just arbitrarily raise them. Like again, as I said, you want a 10% raise? Fantastic, you can have it. But there's 450 of you, and you gotta figure out how to get rid of 30 of them. And then now you guys can each have 10%. So, you know, that's the way you gotta kind of look at this. You can't just, you know, in government, they've just been automatically giving raises and giving unsustainable pensions. And that is our biggest expense, and we're killing technology. You know, it drove me nuts, and Tom will tell you that, you know, for years we've been cutting this, and now we're saying that we want to do K through 8 and some high school, and I'm going to fight like hell to say, no, we're going to do K through 12. We got to do it all. We're way behind on this, and we got to catch up on technology. And if that means that we have to lease it for 2 more years, that's what we have to do. We can't fool ourselves. This is a technology-based country and time, and we've screwed ourselves on this by not keeping up on this. We've cut that budget tremendously. You want to save some money? We got a $52,000 transfer to do wrestling mats tonight. You want to save $52,000? Say no wrestling mats, wrestling what you got. There's $52,000. That's a lot. That's one teacher's salary. You know, that's where you got to look at some stuff. And that's the way we've got to deal with this. You can't just say, oh, you know, it's 3.38, and let's put another 0.21. It's only $50. It's only $60. A lot of our people in this township don't have that because it's $60 on top of the $1,500 they're already paying, and they can't make their payments. So, you know, I am feeling for the taxpayers, and I think, you know, Janine's probably got it right where we got to do a balance. We've got to cut some things and raise some taxes and kind of come to a medium. But to look at going to the, I'm dead set against going to any index, let alone an index of that size. You know, and that's, again, this is just my personal feelings, but that's how you got to deal with this. You know, if you got X amount of money, you hold the line. We've got $20 million for salaries, end of conversation. Figure it out. You want to pay more on your insurance, we can give you a 15% raise. If you want to pay less for your insurance, you get less of a raise. You got to just kind of make it work. You got to make it fit where it is.
But I'm just